The arrival. The Galactic Academy of Interspecies Studies hung suspended in the inky blackness of space, a gleaming beacon of knowledge and unity. Its crystalline spires and bioorganic domes house the most diverse collection of sentient beings in the known universe. Within its halls, a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and warbles filled the air as students from 1,000 worlds exchanged ideas and forged friendships. Professor Xylith, a towering plant-based life-form with shimmering leaves for hair, nervously adjusted her root system in anticipation of the day's events. Her classroom, usually a harmonious blend of different species, was about to face its greatest challenge yet. "Attention, class." Xylith's melodious voice resonated through the room, causing ripples in the air that her students could feel rather than hear. Today, we welcome a new exchange student from a recently discovered planet called Earth. A chorus of excited murmurs filled the room. Earth was a subject of much fascination and fear among the galactic community. Its inhabitants, known as humans, were classified as Deathworlders, creatures that had evolved on a planet so hostile that it boggled the minds of most sentient species. The door to the classroom slid open with a soft hiss, and in walked Zara Chen, the first human to ever set foot in the Galactic Academy. She stood just over 5.5 feet tall, with dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and warm brown eyes that darted nervously around the room. Hi everyone," Zara said, her voice barely above a whisper. Yet, even at this low volume, the sound waves emanating from her vocal cords caused several of the more sensitive students to wince. Professor Xylith's leaves rustled in what Zara hoped was a welcoming gesture. "Class, this is Zara Chen from Earth. Zara, why don't you tell us a little about yourself?" Zara took a deep breath, trying to calm her nerves. "Well, I'm from a city called Shanghai on Earth. I'm really excited to be here and learn about all your cultures. On Earth, I studied xenobiology, so I'm fascinated by the diversity of life in the galaxy." As she spoke, Zara noticed the strange reactions of her classmates. A gelatinous blob in the front row was vibrating at an alarming frequency. A crystalline being near the back of the room had developed several new facets, and a gaseous entity that had been lazily floating near the ceiling suddenly condensed into a tight ball. Is everything okay?" Zara asked, her concern causing her voice to rise slightly. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The windows of the classroom, made of a supposedly unbreakable transparent alloy, began to vibrate ominously. Professor Xylith's leaves wilted slightly. Yes. Well, you see, Zara, many species here are quite sensitive to sound waves. Your voice, even at what you consider a normal volume, can be quite intense for some of us." Zara's eyes widened in horror. "Oh no, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Should I just write everything down instead?" Before the professor could respond, a small furry creature with multiple eyes raised a tentacle. "Professor, I believe I have a solution," it chittered in a high-pitched voice that Zara could barely hear. "We learned about sonic dampening fields in our advanced physics class. Perhaps we could implement one around Zara?" Professor Xylith's leaves perked up. "Excellent suggestion, Zix. Zara, would you be comfortable with that?" Zara nodded eagerly, relieved at the possibility of a solution. However, as Zix scurried to the front of the room to set up the dampening field, Zara's relief was short-lived. In her excitement to try out the field, she forgot to modulate her voice. "This is amazing. Thank you so much, Zix," she exclaimed. The result was catastrophic. The windows, already strained from her previous speech, shattered spectacularly. Shards of the supposedly unbreakable material rained down, causing panic among the students. The gelatinous blobs split into multiple smaller blobs, each quivering in fear. The crystalline being shattered into 1,000 glittering pieces, only to slowly reform moments later. Zara stood in shock, her hands clasped over her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, barely audible even to her own ears. Professor Xylith, who had instinctively curled her leaves around nearby students to protect them, slowly unfurled. "Class dismissed," she announced, her usual melodious tone now flat and strained. "Zara, please stay behind." As the shaken students filed out of the room, many giving Zara a wide berth, she felt her dreams of interstellar education crumbling around her like the shattered windows. How could she possibly fit in at the Galactic Academy if she couldn't even speak without causing destruction? Professor Xalif approached Zara, her movements cautious but not unkind. "Zara, I understand this is not the first day you envisioned," she said softly. Zara nodded miserably. "Professor, I'm so sorry. I never meant to cause any harm. Maybe I should just go back to Earth. I'm clearly not cut out for this." The professor's leaves rustled in what Zara was beginning to recognize as a sign of contemplation. Now, let's not be hasty. The Galactic Academy prides itself on fostering understanding between diverse species. This is merely a larger challenge than we anticipated. Zara looked up hopefully. "You mean you're not going to send me back?" "Certainly not," Professor Xalith assured her. "However, we will need to take some precautions. I'm going to arrange for you to have a personal sonic dampening field installed. Until then, perhaps it would be best if you communicated in writing." Relief flooded through Zara. "Thank you, Professor. I promise I'll do whatever it takes to make this work." As they began to clean up the destroyed classroom, Zara couldn't help but feel a mix of anxiety and excitement about the days to come. She had caused quite a first impression, but she was determined to show her new classmates that there was more to humans than their powerful voices. Over the next few days, Zara worked tirelessly to adapt to her new environment. The personal sonic dampening field, once installed, allowed her to speak without causing destruction, though many of her classmates still seemed wary of her. Zix, the furry, multi-eyed creature who had suggested the dampening field, became Zara's first friend at the academy. They spent hours together, with Zix peppering Zara with questions about Earth and humans. Is it true that humans intentionally ingest poison for recreational purposes? Zix asked one day as they sat in the academy's arboretum, surrounded by plants from 100 different worlds. Zara chuckled, the sound muffled by her dampening field. "If you're talking about alcohol, then yes, some of us do. But it's not really poison to us. Well, not unless you drink too much." Zix's eyes widened in fascination. "Remarkable. And you voluntarily expose yourselves to radiation for aesthetic reasons." "Oh, you mean tanning?" "Yeah, some humans do that. It's not the healthiest habit though," Zara explained, realizing how strange human behaviors must seem to other species. As the days passed, Zara found herself opening up more to her classmates, sharing stories about Earth and learning about their home worlds in return. She was fascinated by the bioluminescent algae that served as the brain of one student, and the quantum entanglement that allowed another to exist in multiple places simultaneously. However, not all interactions were positive. Some students still avoided her, whispering about the dangerous Deathworlder when they thought she couldn't hear. Zara tried not to let it bother her, focusing instead on her studies and the friendships she was slowly building. One day, as Zara was heading to her xenobiology class, she overheard a conversation that made her pause. "I don't understand why they let her come here," a voice whispered. "Humans are too unpredictable, too dangerous. Did you hear about what happened on the space station near Proxima Centauri?" Zara's heart sank. She knew the incident they were referring to. A diplomatic misunderstanding had resulted in accidental damage to the station. It had been all over the news when Earth first joined the Galactic Federation. She was about to turn away when another voice spoke up. "That's not fair. Zara's not like that. She's trying really hard to fit in." With a start, Zara realized it was Zix defending her. Warmth bloomed in her chest, and she made a mental note to thank her friend later. As she entered the classroom, Professor Xylith was setting up for the day's lesson. "Ah, Zara, excellent timing. We're going to be studying adaptive biology today, and I was hoping you could share some insights about human adaptability." Zara nodded eagerly, always happy to contribute to the class. As she began to speak about how humans had adapted to various environments on Earth, she noticed something strange. The dampening field around her was flickering, the blue glow pulsing erratically. Mid-sentence, the field suddenly failed completely. Zara's voice, no longer contained, boomed through the classroom with the force of a sonic blast. Students reeled back, some crying out in pain. Equipment shattered, and the reinforced windows once again began to crack. In a panic, Zara clamped her hands over her mouth, but the damage was already done. The classroom was in chaos, with students either cowering in fear or glaring at her in anger. Professor Xylith, recovering quickly, raised her leaves for silence. "Everyone, please calm down." "Zara, are you all right?" Zara nodded mutely, afraid to speak. Tears of frustration and embarrassment welled in her eyes. Just when she thought she was making progress, disaster had struck again. As the professor tried to restore order to the classroom, Zara felt a gentle touch on her arm. It was Zix, looking up at her with concern in all of their eyes. "It's not your fault," Zix whispered. "Technology fails sometimes. We'll figure this out." Zara gave a watery smile, grateful for her friend's support. As she looked around the room at the mixture of fear, anger, and curiosity on her classmates' faces, she realized that her journey at the Galactic Academy was far from over. She had a long way to go to prove herself, to show that humans could be more than just the dangerous Deathworlders they were perceived to be. With a deep breath, Zara squared her shoulders. She would face this challenge head-on, just as humans had faced countless challenges throughout their history. After all, adaptability was one of humanity's greatest strengths. And here, at the Galactic Academy, surrounded by the most diverse array of life in the universe, Zara was determined to adapt, to learn, and to show the true potential of humanity. As the class slowly settled down, and Professor Xylith began to discuss options for a more stable dampening field, Zara felt a glimmer of hope. This was just the beginning of her adventure in the stars, and she was ready to face whatever came next. One carefully modulated word at a time. Adaptation and understanding. The days following the dampening field malfunction were challenging for Zara. Many of her classmates gave her a wide berth in the hallways, their appendages or sensory organs twitching nervously whenever she approached. But Zara was determined not to let this setback defeat her. With the help of Professor Xylith and the Academy's top xenotechnologists, a new, more robust dampening field was developed. This one was integrated into a sleek collar that Zara wore around her neck, allowing her to modulate her voice with more precision. "How does it feel?" Professor Xylith asked as Zara tested the new device. Zara took a deep breath and spoke, her voice clear, but no longer overwhelming. "It's amazing. I can actually hear myself normally, but I'm not causing any damage." The professor's leaves rustled in approval. "Excellent. Remember, Zara, technology is just a tool. The real change must come from understanding and adapting to each other." Zara nodded, taking the words to heart. She knew she had to do more than just control her voice. She needed to bridge the gap between herself and her alien classmates. Over the next few weeks, Zara threw herself into her studies with renewed vigor. She spent hours in the Academy's vast library, absorbing information about the various species that made up the student body. She learned about the delicate crystalline structures of the Quartzians, the complex social hierarchies of the hive-minded Zixexa, and the empathic abilities of the gaseous Etheri. During a xenobiology class, Zara's newfound knowledge paid off. Professor Xylith was discussing the challenges of interspecies medical treatment when Zara raised her hand. "Yes, Zara," the professor acknowledged, her tone encouraging. "I was wondering about the Quartzians," Zara began, careful to keep her voice modulated. "Given their crystalline structure, wouldn't traditional medical scanners be ineffective? Perhaps a form of sonic imaging could be adapted to map their internal structures without causing damage." The class fell silent, and for a moment, Zara feared she had said something wrong. Then, a tinkling sound like wind chimes filled the air. The Quartzian student, Krista, was vibrating in what Zara realized was their species' equivalent of applause. "An excellent observation, Zara," Professor Xylith beamed. "In fact, that's precisely the method that Quartzian medics use. Well done." Zara felt a warmth spread through her chest. It wasn't much, but it was a start. As the days passed, Zara found more opportunities to connect with her classmates. She joined study groups, offering insights from her Deathworld perspective that often provided unique solutions to problems. Slowly but surely, the fear in her classmates' eyes began to be replaced by curiosity and even respect. One day, as Zara sat in the Academy's biodome, enjoying the simulated sunlight that reminded her of Earth, she was approached by a shimmering, amorphous being. It was Gluck, the gelatinous student who had been terrified of her on her first day. "Greetings, Zara of Earth," Gluck burbled, their form rippling nervously. I wish to apologize for my initial reaction to you. I have observed your efforts to adapt, and I realize I may have judged prematurely." Zara smiled warmly. "There's no need to apologize. Gluck, I understand my presence was a shock. I'm just glad we have the chance to get to know each other now." Gluck's form settled into a more relaxed state. "I am curious. Is it true that humans engage in a bonding ritual involving the rapid movement of their bodies to rhythmic sound vibrations?" Zara chuckled. "You mean dancing? Yes, that's true. It's a form of expression and social bonding for us. Would you like me to show you?" Gluck's entire form quivered with excitement. "Oh yes, please." Careful to keep her movements gentle to avoid startling her new friend, Zara stood and began to sway to an imaginary beat. She hummed softly, demonstrating how humans moved to music. To her surprise, Gluck began to pulse and shift in time with her movements. Soon, other students in the biodome noticed and gathered around, fascinated by this display of human culture. Zix, who had been studying nearby, scampered over. "Ooh, what's happening? Is this a human mating ritual?" Zara laughed, shaking her head. "No, Zix. This is just for fun. Would you like to join in?" Before long, the biodome had turned into an impromptu interspecies dance party. Quartzians chimed melodiously, Etheri swirled in colorful patterns, and even the normally reserved Zigzaxa was swaying their antennae in time with the others. As Zara looked around at the joyful chaos she had inadvertently created, she felt a sense of belonging wash over her. For the first time since arriving at the Academy, she felt truly accepted. However, the moment of harmony was interrupted by a sudden blaring alarm. Red lights flashed throughout the biodome, and a computerized voice echoed through the space. "Warning, gravitational anomaly detected. All students please report to designated safety zones immediately." The dancing stopped abruptly, replaced by confused murmurs and fearful whispers. Professor Xylith's voice came over the intercom, steady but urgent. "Remain calm, everyone. This is not a drill. The Academy's orbit has been destabilized by an unexpected gravitational surge. Please follow emergency protocols and make your way to the nearest escape pods." Panic began to spread among the students. The Etheri condensed into tight, frightened balls, while the Quartzians' crystalline forms clinked together nervously. Zara looked around, her mind racing. Her Deathworld instincts, honed by millions of years of human evolution in dangerous environments, kicked into high gear. "Listen up, everyone," Zara called out, her voice cutting through the chaos thanks to her dampening collar. "We need to stay together. Zix, you know the Academy's layout better than anyone. Can you guide us to the nearest escape pod bay?" Zix nodded, their multiple eyes wide with fear but determined. "Ah yes, I can do that." "Good," Zara continued, naturally falling into a leadership role. "Gluck, your amorphous form allows you to see around corners. Can you scout ahead for any obstacles?" Gluck burbled an affirmative, stretching into a more streamlined shape. "Krista," Zara addressed the Quartzian, "your crystalline structure can refract light. Can you use it to signal other students we come across to follow us?" Krista chimed in agreement, her facets already beginning to glow. As the group made their way through the increasingly unstable hallways of the academy, Zora's quick thinking and the combined abilities of her classmates proved invaluable. They navigated fallen debris, helped injured students, and gathered more of their peers along the way. The journey to the escape pod bay was fraught with danger. At one point, a section of the corridor began to decompress, the vacuum of space threatening to suck them out. Without hesitation, Zara wedged herself into the breach, her denser Deathworld physiology allowing her to withstand the pressure long enough for Gloop to seal the hole with their malleable form. Finally, they reached the escape pod bay, only to find it in chaos. There weren't enough pods for all the students, and panic was setting in. Zara's mind raced, recalling everything she had learned about her classmates' physiologies. "Wait," she shouted above the din. "We can fit more people if we organize by species. Ethery can compress themselves, Quartzians can align their structures efficiently, and Gloop's people can mold themselves to fill empty spaces." Under Zara's guidance, they began to reorganize. Her understanding of each species' unique characteristics allowed them to maximize the space in each pod. As the last of the students was safely aboard, Zara looked around, ensuring no one was left behind. "Zara, come on," Zix called from the last pod. "We have to go now." With one last glance around the empty bay, Zara leaped into the pod just as the doors sealed shut. The pod ejected from the failing academy, joining a stream of others as they fled the gravitational anomaly. As they floated in space, watching the Galactic Academy grow smaller in the distance, a profound silence fell over the occupants of the pod. Then, slowly, voices began to rise, not in fear or panic, but in awe and gratitude. "You saved us," Gloop burbled, their gelatinous form rippling with emotion. "Not just us," Krista chimed in, her facets glowing warmly. "Your quick thinking saved so many others too." Zara felt overwhelmed by the praise. I just did what anyone would do. We all worked together. That's what saved us." Zix placed a furry appendage on Zora's arm. "No, Zora. What you did was extraordinary. You used your knowledge of our differences to bring us together. You turned our diversity into our strength." As murmurs of agreement filled the pod, Zara realized that in this moment of crisis, she had done more than just survive. She had shown the true potential of humanity, not as fearsome Deathworlders, but as adaptable, quick-thinking allies. The crisis had forged a new understanding between Zara and her classmates. As they drifted through space, waiting for rescue, the barriers that had once separated them seemed to melt away. In their place, a new appreciation for the strength found in diversity began to grow. Zara looked out at the star-studded expanse of space, a smile playing on her lips. Her journey at the Galactic Academy was far from over, but now she faced the future not as an outsider, but as an integral part of this incredible interstellar community. As the rescue pod drifted through the vast expanse of space, the initial wave of relief and gratitude began to settle into a more contemplative atmosphere. Zara found herself gazing out at the glittering stars, her mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. "So, what happens now?" Krista's melodic voice broke the silence, her crystalline form refracting the dim emergency lights of the pod. Zix, his fur slightly ruffled from the hasty evacuation, leaned forward. "The Galactic Council will have to convene an emergency session. This isn't just about us or the Academy. That gravitational anomaly could pose a threat to multiple sectors." Gloop gurgled in agreement, their gelatinous form rippling with nervous energy. "But what about our studies? Our future careers? Everything we've worked for?" Zara turned away from the viewport, facing her diverse group of classmates. She saw the worry etched on their faces, or expressed through various alien physiologies, and felt a surge of determination. "Listen, everyone," she began, her voice steady and confident. "What happened today doesn't mark the end of our journey. If anything, it's just the beginning." She gestured around the pod. "Look at us. A few cycles ago, we were just a bunch of different species trying to coexist in the same classes. Now, we're a team. We faced a crisis together and came out stronger. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the pod. Whatever challenges we face next, rebuilding the academy, continuing our studies, or even helping to investigate that anomaly, we'll face them together. We've proven that our differences make us stronger, not weaker. Zix nodded, his whiskers twitching with excitement. Zara's right. Think about it. We've just lived through an experience that most seasoned spacefarers only read about in simulations. That's got to count for something in our future careers. Krista's facets brightened. And imagine the research opportunities. A gravitational anomaly of that magnitude, the scientific community will be buzzing for cycles. As the conversation in the pod shifted from worry to excited speculation about the future, Zara felt a warmth spreading through her chest. She had come to the Galactic Academy feeling like an outsider, a Deathworlder struggling to fit in. Now, floating in a rescue pod amidst the stars, she realized she had found her place. The pod's communication system crackled to life, interrupting their discussion. "Attention evacuees," a calm voice announced. "This is the Galactic Rescue Fleet. We have locked onto your position and will begin retrieval operations shortly. Please stand by." A cheer went up in the pod, a cacophony of different sounds from various species all expressing the same joy and relief. As the sleek rescue ships appeared in the distance, their lights piercing the darkness of space, Zara felt a sense of anticipation building within her. The rescue wasn't just an end to their immediate crisis, it was the beginning of a new chapter. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew she wouldn't face them alone. She had found her place among the stars, not as a human among aliens, but as a valued member of a diverse and incredible galactic community. The future, with all its unknowns, had never looked brighter.